Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. It's a new day, and for the next 2 hours, as always, we have some of the major conversations happening here in Nigeria. Of course, kicking off here in Lagos, but just before that, just a quick remind you, we, of course, encourage you to be a part of the conversations this morning by joining our social media platforms at News Central TV, and if you're watching us on YouTube, do well to leave a comment. Yes, the biggest conversations are happening here in Lagos, as of, this morning, and coming from yesterday's impeachment of the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Mudashiru Obasa. It did create a ton of conversations, with many people wondering exactly what the reasons are. Yes, certain reasons were stated by the members of the House before his impeachment, but many other people have, pointed out that it's much beyond, some of the reasons that were stated. The reasons that were pointed out, a lot of people have also argued that those things weren't necessarily impeachable offenses, coming late to sessions, being, rude, overbearing to fellow House members, and some of the other, items that were mentioned. And also, allegations of corruption and mismanagement of billions of naira here in Lagos State. It has created conversations, and many people have also said, that this is very likely going to be as a result of, a personality that seemed to be going beyond control, and maybe also because of his likelihood of running for the position of governor of Lagos State in 2027. And so, there's many of these angles that we will be looking at today. Who exactly was Mudashiru Obasa? At what point did he maybe, go beyond, go too close to the sun, as it is said, and get burned? And maybe if there's other details concerning the allegations of corruption and mismanagement of funds that we must x-ray. As like I've always said, that nobody mismanages, billions of naira in Nigeria by themselves. If you're going to point fingers at one person, there's many other people down that system that are also aware, either turned, their faces the other way while those funds were being mismanaged, or maybe we're a part of it, and so we will x-ray some of these things today and see where the conversation leads. But for now, it is definitely the biggest conversation in Lagos, and of course, maybe across Nigeria. But let's, quickly share with you what our top stories are, and then also bring you breakfast headlines. This morning, State Assembly drama, Obasa out, Meranda in, and that's, of course, in Lagos State. Also, building borders, migration in focus. We're going to be looking at Nigeria's humanitarian crisis and the increasing number of IDPs. 9 bodies retrieved as rescue of trapped miners resumed. And that's another part of the continent. Also this morning, 40 farmers killed in Dumba as the government begins probe. We'll also be taking you through the newspaper front pages this morning. What are the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this Tuesday morning? Now we begin in the western part of the continent, where no fewer than 40 farmers have been reportedly killed in Dumba, a community in Kukawa local government area of Borno State, Nigeria. Local sources, preferring anonymity, confirmed to News Central that the terrorists stormed the farmers' settlement in the bush shortly after a disagreement over payment of taxes. A statement by the Borno State Commissioner for Information and Internal Security, Professor Usman Tar, has since confirmed that investigation has commenced as the circumstances behind the attack had been investigated. In the meantime, suspected terrorists have killed 2 worshippers in a church in Yanuwa, a Nigerian church located in Chibok local government area of Borno State. The police public relations officer for the Borno State Police Command, ASP Nahum Daso, who confirmed the attack in Maiduguri on Monday, said the command has mounted surveillance and an armed team to restore confidence among residents of the area. He also added that aside from the 2 deaths, 2 others, including Esther Johanna and Ali Johanna, sustained gunshot injuries. And the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, has been impeached, with Honorable Mojisola Meranda, representing Apapa State Constituency 1, as the new Speaker. Monday's impeachment by members of the Lagos State House of Assembly came after they accused him of multiple statutory and financial infractions. Obasa was subsequently replaced by his deputy, Lasbat Meranda. Ms. Meranda, who represents Apapa Constituency 1, was also a former chief whip of the House. The removal came days after media reports of how Obasa oversaw the withdrawal of 43.5 billion naira for backup vehicles for lawmakers, as well as other controversial activities. Still in the news, the House of Representatives has frowned at the refusal of the Minister of Interior and Comptroller General of Customs and the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service at its investigative session on the automation process of the Nigerian Customs Service and its efforts to secure the nation's borders. The investigative hearing, which was instituted following a motion raised during plenary, highlighted the need to deploy technology in a bid to effectively secure the nation's borders. About 250 lawmakers were sworn in on Monday as the uneasy calm prevailed in the violence-hit Mozambique. But two main opposition political parties, the Mozambican National Resistance and the Democratic Movement of Mozambique, boycotted the ceremony, claiming that they are still in dispute over the results of the presidential elections held on October 9th. The newly elected Speaker of the National Assembly said the legislature would work to champion dialogue and inclusiveness in order to find solutions to the current political impasse in the southern African nation. And now we turn to South Africa, where the distressing news of a video has resurfaced that captures a harrowing reality faced by miners trapped in the Stilfontein mine. This footage, reportedly recorded by miners who have been confirmed underground, reveals the tragic aftermath of starvation among their colleagues. This disturbing revelation has ignited calls for accountability and reforms within the mining sector. Human rights organizations, labor unions are now demanding immediate investigations and holding the government accountable. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. We'll now move back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbon.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, this morning, we turn our spotlight on Nigeria's migration, a complex tapestry of hope, resilience, and challenge. With over 3.5 million internally displaced persons, the highest in Africa, Nigeria faces one of the continent's most significant humanitarian crises. Conflict, climate change, and economic instability are driving migration within and beyond our borders, creating ripple effects that touch every aspect of our nation.
Now, in Borno State alone, IDP camps house over 1.6 million people, many of whom have fled violence from insurgent groups. Across the country, approximately 60% of displaced persons are women and children, who remain most vulnerable to poverty, lack of education, and healthcare challenges. Yet, beyond the statistics, there are stories of survival, innovation, and communities finding ways to rebuild despite adversity. Now, this morning, we will explore solutions to ensure migration becomes a story of opportunity, not despair. Joining us are the distinguished guest, Mr. Aliyu Tijani Ahmed, Honorable Federal Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. We're also joined this morning by human rights advocate known for amplifying the voices of migrants with a global, regional, and national experience working with cross-border teams on migration on 4 continents, which has yielded clear, quantifiable improvements in migration policy. Unfortunately, we have reports that, we would love for her to join us, but she's not yet here. We're hoping that we probably can connect with her before the end of the conversation. But we're joined as well by global disability rights advocate and a leading expert in diversity, equity, and inclusion, the CEO and founder of TAF Africa, Mr. Jake Epele. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right. Honorable Commissioner, I will begin the conversation with you. If you may please give us what would be a picture of what our situation is. You know, you work with the refugees. What really is the picture on the inside?
Okay, there might be some delay, with the sound to the Honorable Commissioner. But, while we try to get that sorted, we're going to start with Jacob Pellet this morning, just to also get, your view. The numbers are staggering, and you would expect that over time, in the last maybe 10 years, that Nigeria would have taken deliberate and, steps towards reducing the number of, Nigerians living in IDP camps across the country. And it's not just in northern Nigeria, even in the southern part of the country, there are, existing IDP camps. So, Mr. Akpele, kindly share with us, what steps have been taken and what the current situation, still is.
Thank you very much. It's often said that everything rises and falls on leadership. I think the previous leadership that tried to manage this situation, I would say, weren't very capable enough, very informed, and strategic in terms of implementing measures that will stem the tide of some of the issues that you mentioned, whether it's IDP or issues around migration. I believe that there are two leaders right now that are handling the situation: the Minister for Humanitarian and the Honorable Commissioner, Federal Commissioner, that we were having technical issues or glitches that he was not able to speak. Both of them I have interacted with, I have shared thoughts with, and I believe that both of them have the requisite strategy to prefer a solution. And taking into cognizance some of the things that they have shared with me and some of the things that I've shared with them, I believe that they are capable of rejigging the situation, turning it around for good. It is an enormous problems in the hands of the Ministry of Humanitarian and the Federal Commissioner. But I believe that they are capable because leaders solve problems. And I believe these two gentlemen have the experience and the skills to find a lasting solution, whether it's the issue of poverty alleviation or IDP and all the issues around migration. Migration is very key. The issues are very key, and the discussion that you're bringing right now, I think you're one of the first media house that is throwing light on this, because there is what is called the Rabat process, which is some form of management procedure that is established and overseen by International Migration Organization. Nigeria will take over the leadership in a few days from now in Portugal. The Minister for Humanitarian being the one that will be in the leadership position to implement most of the agreement that Nigeria have had as it concerns migration. Don't forget that 3.6% of the entire world population within the framework of migration, and billions of dollars transact between Nigerians and diaspora and what they repatriate home. So there is the good side of it. But one of the aspects amongst the very many aspects that you mentioned, which are true, is visa restriction. Visa restriction and the process of obtaining visa is one of the push factor when it comes to issue of migration. And in a couple of days, we're tweaking and looking at a possible roundtable discussion on visa restrictions and what will make it possible for embassies to effectively, without compromise, engage Nigerians and give them visa when they need it, especially those of them that will go and come back. The issue of irregular migration is endemic. It's a problem, both in the hand of the UN system and the countries, either countries of destination or the countries from where they move from. So these are issues that both the Nigerian and international community needs to sit down and find a lasting solution. Of course, economic situation in countries like Nigeria has further fueled the need for people to just move to other countries, what we call the Japa syndrome. So these are some of the issues, and I'm glad that organization like yours, your station, is helping in ensuring there is proper information and strategic advocacy to help give the right perspective, whether it's information or implementation of whatever measures that Ministry of Humanitarian and the Commission are embarking on.
All right. Thank you very much for that very extensive explanation. Let's now bring in the Honorable Commissioner into the conversation. Earlier, I had asked about what the true picture is. The statistics are there. They tell us about 1.6 million people, internally displaced persons in Borno State. But beyond the numbers, what is the true picture of what the current situation is, especially in our internally displaced persons camp? Oh, it doesn't seem like Honorable Tijani Ahmed can hear, but I'll pose the same question to Mr. Epele. I believe that, I don't know if I believe that you may have had some interactions with these internally displaced persons. You know, every day we're talking about the insecurity challenges, and of course, with more insecurity challenges in the country, we would see more people pushed into internally displaced persons camp. But can you share with us a picture of what that reality looks like for the Nigerians who have to unfortunately live like this?
Well, it's troubling, but before then, maybe, Julia, I hope I got your name right. Maybe we need to talk to Honorable Commissioner to switch to Zoom if we keep having problems with this connection, because it's important that he speaks to these issues. He has the statistics. I don't have the accurate statistics, but I do have some very well-meaning information around the situation with IDP, whether it's in the electoral process or in empowerment or even reintegration of these IDP people in their camp into their mainstream communities and society. We do have a huge problem in our hands. The numbers are staggering. The interventions are dwindling, and in most cases, they are nowhere to be found, because sometimes the situation is such that the interventions are underfunded.
Yep.
You know,
all right.
Sometimes the situation is being able to know the accurate figure and to reach the people who needs it. But the situation is troubling, whether it's children in the camp, women in the camp, persons with disability. The situation, I think, is one of the things that I will say requires the president to, you know, probably call for a state of emergency in that area. That means we need to do something real quick. For us as an organization, you know, in the electoral space, we had to work with INEC to formulate a policy that would allow many of them who are eligible to vote. Even at that, there are still issues that we're dealing with. So it is a troubling situation, and something that I believe that the current minister and Honorable Tijani, sitting down with a number of their staff, will begin to find a lasting solution. And I want to say that this is just the beginning of this conversation. There's a whole lot to unravel. There's a whole lot to for you journalists to look at and present the issues.
Mr. Akpala, I mean, yeah. So can you hold on? You know, so we can get the views from the commissioner himself. Let's go on a very short break and see if we can fix the sound connection, and then when we come back, we'll have the commissioner.
Welcome back to the conversation. We're joined now by the Honorable Commissioner, Mr. Aliyu Tijani Ahmed, who's the Honorable Federal Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. Welcome to the show. We're hoping that the connection is solid now. At the start of the conversation, I'd asked the question about what the exact picture is regarding, the status of, for example, the internally displaced persons. The numbers are saying 1.6 million in Borno State. But what is the true picture of what it looks like in these camps?
If, on a general note, the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons is an agency, federal government agency, in charge of care, support for the displaced individuals, migrants, and refugees. Of course, people should also be aware that for some times now, or for many years now, we have been facing a lot of challenges in the area of displaced persons in Nigeria. As it is today, we have not less than about 6.1 million Nigerians that have been displaced across the country, with the increase in flooding that has occurred in 2022 and the recent one that occurred in Maiduguri. Of course, the number has risen. Some of the international partners may be talking about 3.1, 3.6. Those ones, they are making reference to displaced persons that are living in camps. There are many, more than the number of those that are living in the camps, that are living within the host communities. And that is why when you put all these numbers together, both the ones in the camp and the ones that are living within the host communities, you get not less than about 6.1 Nigerians that are being displaced. The National Commissions for Refugees, Migrants, Internally Displaced Persons have been trying to do the best it could to ensure that the displaced individuals were given succor, were given support, were given care, so that they cannot just be left unattended. As part of the methods that the agency is now doing is to provide durable solutions, because you cannot continue to be keeping displaced persons in camps. I don't think the government can continue to sponsor that kind of heavy financial burden. So the only way is to go for durable solutions. Many states are now working out to provide durable solutions, but the agency is also making effort in ensuring that durable solution is being provided to displaced individuals. Take, for instance, now, where we build some houses in so many areas across the country. We have houses which we refer to it as internally displaced person cities. We have one in Kano, we have one in Zamfara, we have one in Maiduguri, we have one in the South State. Like that, we are doing that to ensure those that who may not be able to go back to their place of destination, they can now be taken to this area for safety and to look after them. Any moment from now, the Commission is going to take some of these displaced individuals that are living around Abuja area to Kefi, because we have a settlement city there in Kefi. And the next 1-2 weeks, we are taking them to Kefi, provide them with all the necessary care and support. In the cities there, we build schools. We also build a skill acquisition center. We also provided a police station there, and then with a mini market. So that I think for those that are going to stay there, will have their life to live. And instead of providing them this time around, they should be able to provide for themselves after necessary assistance and care from the agency.
Yeah, but just to be clear, what is the average length of time that we've had these numbers? We're talking about 6.1 million Nigerians. How long on the average have these camps existed? And what has the Commission really done to reduce these numbers in maybe the last 10 years?
Come again?
I'm asking you, how long on the average, have we had these numbers? We're talking about 6.1 million Nigerians, that are currently displaced or living in IDP camps. How long on the average have they been there? And has the commission taken any steps to reduce these numbers in the last, maybe 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. The commission has been making effort. That's why I said, as it is today, we have constructed resettlement cities in about 6 to 7 states across the federation, and we intend to remove these people from the camp and then settle them in these constructed cities. And I've also told you that in the cities we were able to make provision for skill acquisition center there, where we will train some of them and then teach them some trade, and then they can live their life. And also, equally, we have a mini market there. And then we, close to the city, we have also provided lands there. So I said the next 2, 3, 4 days, we are going to evacuate some of them that are living here in Abuja, in Durumi, in Kabusa, to Kefi, where we have a nearby settlement cities which was built by the commission. The commission is using that in order to reduce the number of displaced persons that are living in the camp. These are some of them.
So the possibility of them returning home, is that, a part of the conversation that is being had at all? Will these people ever return to what they used to call home? Because, moving from Abuja to Kefi, is, once again, changing whatever location that they used to know as home. Are they ever going to be able to return back home?
Yes, I think effort is being made. Take, for instance, many of these displaced persons are coming from Borno State, Yobe, and Adamawa States, particularly these three states in the northeast. And a lot of houses were built by both the federal government and the Borno State government to take all the displaced persons, wherever they are, back home. And not only the displaced persons, because you find the displaced persons, some in Nigeria, and some have crossed over the country and become refugees elsewhere. Take, for instance, when you go to Cameroon today, you find not less than about 53,000 Nigerians that are living in Cameroon as refugees. The same thing in Niger, and also in Chad. So effort is being made by the federal government vis-a-vis the Borno State government and other state governments to ensure that these people were returned home. We have built houses in Maiduguri, but specifically in our camp in Maiduguri. And then we also have some in Banki, over 600 houses in Banki. As soon as the renovation has been completed, we will relocate them back home. Many of them were from Goza local government, that is around Banki areas. And that was why we built houses in Banki. The state government also, Borno State government has also built some houses around the Banki areas, all in an effort to ensure that these displaced individuals were returned back home. So effort is being made by both the federal government and state governments.
Do we have
in January, in February next month, around the 19th, 29th, we are going to 19th. We are going to have meetings with all the affected states under the leadership of the Borno governor of Yobe State. So effort is being made by both the federal government and the state government to ensure that these displaced individuals were returned back home.
Okay, that's great news to hear. Before we bring in Mr. Epele, I'd just like to ask again, do we have a timeline for when we're expecting this to happen?
Soon. I told you that in the next 1 week, we are removing some of those that are living here in Abuja and return them to our resettlement cities in Kefi, because it is correct to say that some of these displaced individuals, having left their places of abode for more than 10, 15 years, they may not want to return back. So for those that are not intending to return back to their ancestral homes, we made provision for them in the resettlement cities where they can live their life there. Everything has been provided in the cities there.
All right, let's now bring in Mr. Epele into the conversation. You've heard the Honorable Commissioner, the plans that are being made. We don't have a timeline yet. He says this will happen soon. I'd like to get your thoughts. I mean, you've made a number of suggestions as well. You also highlighted voters' rights of the internally displaced persons, which I hope that the Honorable Commissioner will speak to before the end of this conversation. What are the other key areas that you think the government must focus on as they're having these meetings with these persons? He specified a meeting happening in February. So what are the key areas you think that should be highlighted?
Thank you very much. I think Honorable did give some timelines, and I heard him say in a week's time, the people in Abuja will be relocated. February 19th, he talked about another intervention in another location. However, I do have a bit of a concern. One, there's a need to invest in reorientation of these IDP people in IDP camps. There's a need to interact with them and counsel them and persuade some of them in a more subtle but very soft manner to really go back. Most of them don't want to go back, and I don't blame them because their houses are destroyed, their lives distorted. They are going back to nothing. I've interacted with some of them that have lived in that camp for 15 years, for close to 20 years. They said, I have no place to go, So there's a need to invest in some form of reorientation, which I think my good friend is investing in. But there's a need to also ask NGOs like ours, government establishment, NOA, to invest in sensitization of these individuals, in order to rebuild their lives by rebuilding their mind. The other thing is, which is of a huge concern to me, listening to Honorable, is we need to be very careful so that we don't end up creating a reclusive cities, cities where these individuals are confined to themselves and there is no interaction. I would expect, and I think Honorable would listen, that city be an inclusive city, not just for IDP camp members, but for other members of the society, so that the IDP, whoever would inherit those cities, will not feel that this is another concentration camp, another way of just tossing them in one corner and forgetting them. I think we should aim at building an inclusive city and ensuring that everyone concerned are catered for. These are Nigerians, for goodness sake. They deserve the best that this country can offer.
Yeah, Mr. Epele, just to stay with you, and this is what I was trying to get, from the commissioner. I'm sure he's still, maybe will still speak on it. But what I'm trying to get, because for me, the most important part of all of it and the work of the commission, as much as they are taking care of these Nigerians in IDP camps and ensuring that they live, to some extent, a decent quality of life while they live there. But the most important, part for the Nigerian government is to, get these people back to home, what they used to call home. And so in Borno State and in other states that have been affected by insurgency and the different reasons that these people have moved to IDP camps, do we have a Nigeria currently, under the current administration, that promises that these places are safe enough for these people to return home? And for whatever other reasons that, have sent these people, humanitarian crisis, it could be because of flooding as well, that some of these, their homes were destroyed. Have these places been put back in shape for them to return home? And I believe that should be the target of the commission and the Nigerian government. So, Ms. Epele, do you think that we've done well enough in that regard, or the government has?
Look, I started my statement my opening statement by saying that everything rises and falls on leadership. I believe these two leaders, Honorable Tijani I'm not their spokesperson, but I'm just presenting the
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah, I believe two of them are good, great strategic thinkers. And based on my interactions with them, I can see and look beyond their lips that they do have a workable strategy. I mean, one of the things that Tijani said here was relocating some group of people that they know is from certain area to that very area where they come from. I think that's a laudable strategy. And like I said, I am concerned, as an inclusion development expert, I am concerned that these camps or cities, I like the fact that he didn't call it camp, these cities must be inclusive. In other words, it shouldn't just be these IDP people living in that area. Otherwise, we will have a reclusive city. However, in answer to your question, somebody like the Minister for Humanitarian, and you know, I'm glad that you guys will have the opportunity to engage him on your channel. He has, I believe, he has a very strategic data and data analysis of the situation of which is needful. It's not just embarking on intervention, but embarking on intervention with knowledge, with data. You know, there's a need to really interrogate those cities to ensure it will not become another danger zone where terrorists will invade and then cut away human beings like they are cutting away furniture. I believe that Honorable Tijani, who is also listening to me, will take all this into cognizance. I don't think they would have built that city without taking into consideration the security implication. And even when that is done, there's a need to ensure that there is proper and modern technology that will monitor the city so that they don't end up putting the inhabitants in danger. You know, I do agree with you, there's a need for proper security assessment so that we know that the people will be safe, so that we don't take them from fry pan to fire, like they say. So I do agree with you, there's a need for proper security assessment and ensure that there is security in the place before they are even relocated. So I think maybe the Honorable will speak to that, but it's a very valid point and should be taken into consideration.
Okay, Honorable, whilst you speak to that, you know, talking about also the plans that have been made to help them reintegrate into society, I'd like you to also touch on something that Mr. Pele had spoken about earlier, which is the right of these people to vote and how we can ensure that those rights are being guaranteed. So if you can please address these issues.
Pele to understand is that we are not building the settlement cities in a far bush away from people. Neither are we building it in a forest. The settlement cities is situated side by side a host community. Take, for instance, the one I'm talking about, the Kefi one. It's just in between Pionku and then Yerkande. Normally, as an agency in charge of these displaced individuals, we don't put people where there is risk. You cannot remove people from the risky area, and then you put them again in a very risky area, and without adequate provisions. Provision is made to ensure that their security is guaranteed, and that's why there is a police post in the settlement cities. We also consider the issue of their health, and that's why we have a clinic built within the city. And then we also build a market, at least for them to transact and get economic power. And not only that, we also build churches and mosques for them to observe their prayers there. So it is a complete city, guided, safeguarded, with police post provision, with clinic, with water, with light. Everything is provided in that city. and the city is situated.
Yeah. How many people can this city? How many people can this city take?
A community called Yarkande, and then Pianku, where we have the students of National State University living.
Yeah, Honorable Commissioner, how many? How many people is this city meant to accommodate?
It's going to take about 50 households, and if you are talking about 50 households, each household will contain about 6 persons. So 6 times 50.
That'll be about 300.
You get about 300. So we are taking 300 out the camp now. So gradually, as we go along, we remove everybody from the camp. And not only that, we also provided a center for skill acquisition. And then there is a barren land there around the city. For those of them who are farmers, they can go there and farm.
Yeah. Also,
between the agency and the host communities were already been done. Were already been concluded.
Yeah. Also, just to be clear, how many states have these IDP camps currently in Nigeria?
We have not less than 136 IDP camps in Nigeria.
106.
136.
136. Okay, and that includes in the southern part of the country.
That is particularly in the northern part of the country.
Okay.
But there are also some in the eastern part as a result of climate change, flooding that affected so many communities. But the only difference is that those who are living in the southern part of the country, they are living within the host communities.
Right. Okay, we certainly thank you very much for sharing these plans for these people. Taking 300 is a great step, but we still have a long way to go, and we'll continue to highlight the needs of these internally displaced persons, because they are as Nigerian as every one of us who is currently on this set and everyone who's watching. Thank you so much, J.K. Pele, for joining us, and thank you very much, Mr. Aliyu Tijani Ahmed, the Honorable Commissioner, for joining us this morning.
Welcome once again. The Lagos State House of Assembly made headlines across the country yesterday with the impeachment of its Speaker, Mudashiru Obasa. This development comes amidst allegations of financial misappropriation, including the withdrawal of 43.5 billion naira for backup vehicles for lawmakers and other questionable activities. Obasa has been a dominant figure in Lagos politics, serving as Speaker since 2015 and representing the Agege constituency 1 since 2007.
Obasa's removal marks a significant shift in the power dynamics of the Lagos State House of Assembly. His deputy, Mojisola Lasbat Meranda, has taken over as Speaker. This change in leadership may have implications for the state's governance and politics, particularly with the 2027 gubernatorial elections on the horizon. What's next for Lagos State, and how will this development impact the state's future? Joining us to discuss this is Honorable Adeyemi Ikuforiji, the former Speaker, Lagos State House of Assembly. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
All right. I think a great way to start the conversation is to ask if you saw this. I mean, you've been in his shoes before, serving as the Speaker of the House. You served, I think both of you have similar duration, 10 years each. Did you see the end of Mr. Honorable Mudashiru Obasa's time in office in this manner? Did you foresee it?
Let me start firstly by making a correction.
All right, please go ahead.
Obasa started representing Agege since 2003, not 2007. He came into the year 2003 at the same time with me. And back to your question, the seat of the Speaker is a very hot one. And one should not just get complacent with it. You should not take it for granted. You should not take members for granted, because it's the contribution of all the other 39 members that make your seat comfortable. If any of them feels bad with you or is aggrieved, your seat is getting shaken already. That's, if I expected this, yeah, I think with events that have been unfolding over time, it's not out of place to expect that there will be a change of pattern in the leadership of the House.
When you say events, what are these events that you're speaking about?
Well, from what we hear from members and what we observe, I think Speaker Obasa was getting too comfortable on his seat, and he has also he has moved out of that what we call the path, you know, that you must tread as, you know, just first among equals. When you start seeing your colleagues as subordinates, or when you start feeling that you have become larger than life, it becomes very dangerous in any parliament. I mean, the House of Assembly or the parliament is one where everyone is equal. When you get elected to lead the House, don't get carried away with some of your members calling you Oga, my leader, my what? No, that's just, it's a way of, you know, getting you into trouble. And I think he easily fell into trouble. Yeah, I mean, I felt very sad yesterday seeing the reaction across the board. I mean, it wasn't the best for a speaker who had been on seat for almost a decade.
Yeah, I mean, the change in character and, you know, what you've described as him, you know, seemingly, you know, carried himself like he was bigger or better than the remaining members of the House. Did that start recently, or, you know, has this always been, you know, the personality of Honorable Obasa in the 10 years that he's been there?
Look, to me, I mean, he was my colleague and was very close to me. And honestly, he was a very pleasant person. I mean, when we were in the House together. But of course, everyone has his, you know, the very good side and, you know, the downside of each and every character. I think from the time he became Speaker to the event of yesterday, there have been a big change in his person. Or rather, he exhibited traits which were not that very visible before he became Speaker. Well, I was close to him and I knew some of this stuff, but I also thought for the time he has spent in the parliament, he should have learned some lessons about leadership and leading the parliament in particular. But I don't think that really worked very well until he started seeing signs too that there is fire on the mountain. Yeah. And I think saw that too late.
There's also those who say that, you know, he was disrespectful, you know, to the governor of the state, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And of course, you know, when people point, you know, examples, you know, as the budget presentation day, you know, and the way he carried himself and his character, you know, keeping the governor waiting. There's been many of these, you know, statements that have been made, allegations that have been made. You know, is this something that you're also aware of? And, you know, are these things true? Was he, from your analysis, disrespectful to the governor of the state?
Well, let's be very objective about this. The honest truth is the House of Assembly is an arm of government that has its own rules, and I mean the system there is a little bit different from what it is from the executive arm. But we cannot take the issue of the power of the parliament, we can't take it too far. The governor of the state, even if he's a 30-year-old guy, you still need to accord him the respect of the #1 citizen of the state. And yes, I mean, my own belief, the way I see, the parliament is the parliament, and in fact, the parliament has an upper hand, and the parliament is the one representing the people per se, so it's very powerful. But then, when we say this is our governor, that is not no. Everybody has to accord the respect to the governor.
So are you saying that he did not? Are you saying that he did not respect the governor?
Well, their relationship, from my own observation, was not the very best. I think it could have been managed better. I have been inside the chamber for a program, and the governor was kept waiting outside the chamber for a few minutes. That's not done. It's not proper. If you already have the schedule, the governor you have agreed on the time that the governor will come in. When the governor gets there, you get alerted that the governor is around. Every other thing should be suspended, and the governor should be accorded the respect of the #1 citizen of the state. But the occasion I'm talking about, that did not happen. It even got to a point that governor was coming, and then he was said no, not to come down to the podium. Then he had to go back to start greeting people. That's not done. I mean, that's disrespectful of, in fact, the people, not just the governor alone. It's disrespectful of the people. And what happened during the budget presentation, this last budget presentation, I wasn't around, but I felt bad. I mean, the house that we spent so much time, we spent such a great portion of our life building, should not be turned to the house of gangsters and so on. I mean, we saw all members were asked to put on sunshade. What's that all about? Everybody felt bad about such things, and I think it was unbecoming.
Okay. Let's bring up another conversation. One of the other controversies that have been sparked was, of course, the statement made by Honorable Obasa, where he alluded to the potential, the potential of him maybe running for office. In fact, I should probably quote what he says. He said regarding running for office, he said, "Becoming governor is secondary. It is something that I have not given serious consideration. Nevertheless, that does not mean I am too young or lack experience to run. Whereas those who have been before me are not better off." This statement quickly became controversial, with many people saying that he wasn't very smart about how he may have subconsciously or subliminally made his political ambitions known. So let's get your thoughts on that. Do you think that this could have also been a major reason?
You've already summarized it. I mean, he has all the rights in the world to aspire to be governor of the state. Somebody who has been in the House of Assembly for, six terms, and he has been speaker for 3 terms. I mean, what is wrong in him aspiring to be governor of the state? Nothing. But you cannot be governor of the state by, you know, in fact, you need to be smarter. His words at that occasion were completely on, you know, they were not smart enough. How could you start by saying those who have been governor before this time, they were not smarter than you, or you have more experience than it is wrong. It's not done. You are, in fact, you are insulting virtually everybody. We have had governors that you don't even have what it takes, you know, to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. I don't want to go into that area. I mean, it was bad enough. Yeah. And people reacted to that as well.
Yeah, I also want, you know, your thoughts on, you know, the possible involvement of Mr. President. Was Mr. President's approval maybe also sought before this was taken, or was this an independent decision of the Lagos State House of Assembly and its members?
Well, if you want me to be myself,
we want you to be yourself.
If you want me to be myself, I'll tell you that this whole thing, yesterday, when people started giving me the story of what was going on in the assembly, the first thing that came to my mind is the gain of Nigeria is now the loss of Lagos. Look, if Mr. President, Jagaban himself, the Asiwaju of Lagos, the Asiwaju of the universe, if he's at home, I mean, if he had been in his real home, Lagos, all this would not have happened. We wouldn't have gotten ourselves to this point because the whole drama would have been taken care of. In fact, it wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't have been so much mess around us. But we gave him to Nigeria, so we have to bear the pain.
What would he have done differently, right? There's part of the information we hear. Please, if you may allow me just say this. We hear that the Governor's Advisory Council had intervened as well. They had reported him to the president. The president had cautioned him. And, one would think that after that is El Dorado. So what would the president have done differently?
You see, in most homes, when daddy goes away or he travels abroad, the control becomes a little bit more difficult. You find the kids, not going to bed at the time they're supposed to. You find them dressing whichever way they like, talking and shouting whichever way they like. But when daddy is around, it doesn't.
So you're saying that, are you admitting to the fact that the House of Assembly is not mature enough to look after itself and that it needs the president to babysit?
That is, I'm talking of the body politic itself. I'm not talking of the House of Assembly alone. The problem is, if Baba had been around, most of these problems would have been, how do you say, nipped
in the bud.
They wouldn't have come up at all.
So, Mr. President,
they would have been taken care of.
So what you're saying is immediately the president moved to the Federal Capital Territory and took over as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Lagos State immediately went into chaos, and because there was no element of control.
It not that Lagos State went into chaos, but everyone became so much of it's like everyone to his tent, and everyone does whatever he likes because the control is no more what it used to be. We didn't have somebody that we run to in the night or early morning, and you wait until he wakes up, and then you start, pouring your mind, and he tells you, go and call this, go and call that. He makes a call and say, I don't want to hear of this. You people should go and get this done, go and get this done, and everything gets settled. We don't have that access any longer. He's not around for us to go and stay with by 2 a.m., by 1 a.m., 3 a.m.
But isn't this a bad thing that you're saying, that the politics in Lagos State cannot run independently on its own and function for Lagos State without Mr. President's direct involvement?
It is not a bad thing. It only shows that there had been one person who really had vision and who was a real father, and we got spoiled. So immediately he moved away. Our spoiled nation came to the fore. But of course, we're learning. It's a learning process. He has been away just for 1.5 years. So now that we have seen all that has been happening around us, we are now correcting ourselves and we grow more matured.
Would you say that you are proud of the quality of leadership that Honorable Obasa presented to the House, especially because he was your successor? So would you say that he picked up from where you left off and did a much better job, or are you disappointed at the quality of leadership he offered?
Man, I think that's not a very fair question to ask me, because, look, I don't want to beat about the bush, but at the same time, this person by now, I'm sure is not likely to be in a happy mood. So for me to now start, throwing punches, I don't want to do that. But let me just say that I am not also happy the state of affairs of the House, because I know I gave my all in all for 10 years to build that place.
Yeah, I mean, you would have a clear idea of what the situation is. There's been people who have also criticized the Governorship Advisory Council and whatnot. But tell us about that GAC. Who are they, and what exactly do they do for Lagos State? And why can't they also make independent decisions without Mr. President's approval?
Well, first and foremost, the GAC is the highest organ, of our party in Lagos, and members of the GAC are highly respected elders, people with experience, those who have served Lagos, served Nigeria over the years. And let me also state that before Mr. President contested for that seat and became president, he was the chairman of the GAC. Our Papa, Prince Olusi, is presently the chairman of GAC. And I want to tell you that members are people with integrity,
right,
highly respected people. And they are doing everything to make sure that the state remains a progressive state.
All right, Honorable Adeyemi Kufureji, unfortunately we have to end the conversation. We want to please get your word that when we get you again, you'll please join us. We've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you, and we'd love to have another conversation with you again in the nearest future.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you. I'm always around.
Thank you very much for your time. Okay, we will be building up on this conversation, as we're sure it's certainly going to be the biggest story on the papers this morning. We have our guest joining us, Ike Chukwuamechi, is in the studio, and he'll be reviewing the papers with us after this break.
Welcome once again, and let's take you through the newspapers now and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this Tuesday morning. We have Ikechukwu Amechi joining us to share his views on these stories. Kicking off on the Punch newspapers, we have here Inside Story, how hubris and intrigues, power play sealed Obasa's fate. Deputy Speaker Meranda sworn in as Lagos' first female speaker, someone who claims innocence.
I didn't tell ya.
Again, Boko Haram strikes in Borno, kills 40, abducts scores. Tomorrow's Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Port rehabilitation delayed despite $700 million loan. Tariff hike, telcos and ICT firms owe banks 1.69 trillion naira. Coronation date fixed as Alafin designate gets staff of office. And also gospel singer arrested with severed call members' head in Nasarawa. That's one of the most terrible stories we've heard this year in Nigeria. Tax bill, Senate meets federal government team, plans public hearing. And these are the major stories on the Punch newspapers this morning.
All right, and let's go to our next paper. The next paper we have this morning is the Nigerian Tribune on the front page. No guarantee yet there will be no more grid collapse, according to Power Minister. Well, it says system crashed only 8 times in 2024. Only. And the keyword, insecurity, vandalism, poor infrastructure remain major threats to grid. Police arrest gospel singer caught with girlfriend's head in Nasarawa. That was a very heartbreaking story. Former college registrar found dead at home in Plateau. Ibadan stampede. Court admits Naomi Oriyomi, principal, to 10 million naira bill, 2 shorties each. Loss of revenue. National Assembly Joint Committee on Finance to probe MDA's over 4 trillion naira shortfall. Makinde presents new Alafin staff of office certificate. You can see the picture there. Threatens to prosecute Oyomesi over bribery allegation. Coronation will hold in 4 weeks. Ayahu resumes as PDP National Secretary. Supporters storm Secretariat. 36.35 trillion naira revenue target. How we will realize our projection, Minister of Budget says. Why Obasa was sacked as Lagos Assembly. Gets first female speaker Miranda. Clerk suspended. Interestingly, it's not a big story in the Nigerian Tribune, but let's start with that. Everyone is talking about the sacking of Obasa. So let's get your thoughts on it. You've heard the story, you've heard the reasons that have been given, the official and the unofficial reasons, but let's get to your thoughts, Mr. Amechi.
Well, what is there to say about the former Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, who was sacked yesterday by his colleagues. And I dare say it was almost a unanimous decision, because when it was put to voice vote,
Yep. Oh, the ayes have it.
3 times the ayes had it.
Yeah.
And so, but for me, it was a long time coming. Obasa, you know, there is this saying by the 19th century writer, Lord Acton, that power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Obasa is a typical example of what my people, the Igbo people, say. That we have a proverb that goes like this, that when a god begins to misbehave,
Show him the wood he was carved from, on the tree.
will tell him the wood he was carved from. Obasa was only a pawn on the Lagos political power chessboard. But because he had started making money for himself, acquired power, in quote, he started seeing himself as also a kingmaker. And that illusion collapsed yesterday. I'm sure they say he's vacationing abroad. By the time he comes back...
He's probably on his way back already.
By the time he comes back, Obasa will not have 2 people visit him in his house. I can assure you that. That's the way power, politics is played in Nigeria. There's only one power center in Lagos, and that is the Bola Tinubu Center. every other person is an appendage that is used to further the ambitions of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whether he was an ex-governor or now that he's the president. So Obasa was used like his predecessor, Ikufuriji, was used to checkmate the governor on behalf of the principal of the major power broker in Lagos, who remains Bola Tinubu. Now, you know, if you knew what transpired between Ikufuriji and Fashola, there was a time when the powers that be in Lagos wanted to stop Fashola from getting a second term. Ikufuriji, as the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, was part of the major team that we are championing it until Lagosians stamped their feet and said they wanted Fashola to come back for a second term. Now, Ikufuriji, you know, has been almost insulting everybody, insulting Sanwo-Olu, and he was able to do that because he had the backing of the powers that be in Lagos.
You're talking about the former speaker now, the one we just
interviewed him.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean that even this immediate former speaker now, Obasa, also played the same role.
Yeah.
Insulting Sanwo-Olu. In fact, if you listen to the address he gave when Sanwo-Olu brought his last budget or so, it was all hubris, arrogance. And I was asking myself, where is this arrogance coming from? Who on earth was Mudashiru Obasa before he became speaker? And he was only privileged to be speaker for 10 years, was into his third term, because the powers that be in Lagos wanted him. They saw him as a useful tool to advance their own political project. Obasa, as a person, is nobody. I'm sorry to say, in terms of the power equation in Lagos State, and which was what transpired yesterday, the people got tired of him and they threw him out without any incident.
So I just have you address this point. So we just spoke with, you know, the former speaker, Ikufuriji, and, you know, his perspective is that since Mr. President, you know, moved to the Federal Capital Territory, the political scene in Lagos has been without control. It's been without a leader. It's been without, you know, someone who at least puts people in their place. And that's, you know, one of the reasons that, you know, Obasa maybe then grew beyond, you know, or flew too close to the sun and was burned. Is that something you also believe? Does Mr. President's absence from Lagos, you know, also lead to what we're seeing now?
I disagree. Like I said earlier, I just said now, whether Tinubu as ex-governor and even now as president, he determines what happens in Lagos State. He determines what happens in Lagos. What happens in Lagos State is as important to Bola Ahmed Tinubu as what happens to Nigeria, if not more important. And part of what led to the downfall of Obasa may be, I'm using the word consciously, maybe a fallout of the 2027 Lagos politics. There are insinuations out there that the president's son, Seyi Tinubu, is interested in the governorship of Lagos in 2027. Obasa's body language also seems to indicate that he's also interested in that post in 2027. You know, if you noticed last time, the president's chief of staff Gbajabiamila, who was also mentioned, came out quickly to debunk the dissent and said it was his political enemies that were trying to pitch him against the presidency, that he was satisfied with what he was doing in Abuja, that his hands, as it were,
are busy.
Were full, and that the politics of 2027 will take care of itself when the time comes. That is a smarter response from a smarter politician. Obasa grew too big and began to see himself as a power broker in Lagos and started making utterances that we are not politically smart. It is also part of what brought him down. So it's not true, in my own thinking, that Bola Tinubu went to Abuja as the president of Nigeria and therefore is not interested or not hands-on as per what is going on in Lagos State. It is not true. He still calls the shots, and everybody differs to him as far as the politics of Lagos State is concerned. He determines who gets what in Lagos State.
All right. I don't want us to spend too much time talking about this, but I think that you've been able to cover a number of the areas that we hopefully would have loved to cover. But let's talk about the big story on the Nigerian Tribune. No guarantee yet there will be no more grid collapse, Prime Minister says. He says the system crashed only 8 times in 2024. Insecurity, vandalism, poor infrastructure remain major threats to grid. The ministry plans solar lights, CCTV for highways, and of course there is Senator Hits Discourse again, wants privatization reversed. It looks like we're going in circles.
Well, I think I will say that the minister said the obvious. He was frank, that there's no guarantee. It would have been an outright lie for him to say that the problem has been taken care of, because nothing has been done to ensure that there will be no further collapse. But whether it collapsed 2 times or 3 times, or even the 8 times that he agreed, I think it is absurd for the power minister to say only 8 times.
That's a bit
which means
connected.
that the power grid, a nation's power grid, even collapsed once in a year, should be enough concern.
Yeah.
It is, we have the tendency of doing this in Nigeria, where perhaps the terrorists, like they did yesterday, will kill 40 people, and we say, some people will say 60 people were killed, and those you would think are responsible men will come out to say only. And
that it was worse, under the previous administration.
Only 10 were killed, and that before now, that it used to be worse. So the way we look at things in terms of the numbers, as if one is not bad enough. One collapse is bad enough. Only 8 times. The minister should not have said that. But the truth of the matter is that what is it that is being done to ensure that going forward we will not continue to have this grid collapse? The only thing they have succeeded in doing is to use semantics to begin to explain what is the fundamental problem. Now it is no longer grid collapse. What they are telling us, it is tripping. So it is no longer grid collapse. What happened 2 or 3 days ago, they said it is not a grid collapse, that some part of the power distribution facility tripped.
Yeah.
What difference does it make whether it collapsed or it tripped?
There was national outage,
People were thrown into darkness. So we don't have a hold on the power sector, as it were. And as long as we continue to treat power as an item in the exclusive list, as it were, a law, I think, has been passed, even by the National Assembly, that decentralized, that made it now the responsibility of even the states
to generate their own power.
To generate their own power. Why is there no state that has taken it up upon itself? Look, power is a utility. It is the responsibility of the government. That is what power is like education. It is like any other utility that the government has the responsibility to provide to the people.
Right.
So the government is shaking from its responsibility when they are talking about privatization, they are talking about this, they are talking about that. It is the responsibility of because it is a security issue.
Yep.
Power is a security issue, and unless the government begins to appreciate this, we are going nowhere.
On a lighter note, all power belongs to God. Richie, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. It's always a delight to have you. Let's connect with Bongani Siziba in South Africa, who brings us updates regarding the Stilfontein massacre. 9 bodies have been retrieved so far at the mine, as the rescue team, formally has announced. And according to the community members who have volunteered to go underground, they say they have counted over 100 bodies and hundreds of illegal miners still trapped. The rescue, after the Pretoria High Court ordered the government to immediately start the rescue mission. The rescue mission is expected to last 10 days. We have Bongani Siziba, who's at the mine, and we'll cross over to her for more on this story. Bongani, good morning. What is the report about the massacre so far?
Good morning, Olive, and compliments of the year to you and Osa. Yes, we are here at Stilfontein mine, back again. This has been happening for months. Just to show you how big this story is, I'll ask my camera guy just to show you the media that is here, how big this story is. And the human rights are saying that this is a massacre that the government of South Africa has caused, because they have been asking them to retrieve these miners for more than 4 months now, but the government was not doing it up until this matter was taken to Pretoria High Court, where it was now forced to retrieve these miners. But we know that so far there are 34 live people who have been rescued and 9 bodies. We know that as we speak, the crane is down now, going back again to try and retrieve either dead bodies or people who are alive. I was speaking to some of the community members who volunteered to go down there just to help with this rescue team, and they were telling me that there are more than hundreds of bodies that are down there, and also those that are weak because of starvation that are there. But let me just take this to one of the community member who is here, just to hear what they feel about this rescue, because they've been waiting for this for a long time. Good morning, Mzukese, and thank you for joining us here at News Central TV. As a community member, how do you feel that now finally the rescue has come?
Thank you very much for having me. We would not really say we are excited. There is nothing exciting about what is happening, because we are of a very strong view that this would have been prevented. So we can't be happy when there is a massacre which was allowed blatantly to take place unnecessarily. We started engaging and requesting for assistance when there was not even a single person who died. When we extracted about 5, we constantly kept on communicating with the state to say people are now dying, but there was no sense of agency. It was about a number of weeks before there was even one person who died. So they had enough time to prevent this from happening. So there is really nothing exciting about what is happening. But what we appreciate is the fact that at least the families would get an opportunity to bury their loved ones. We are hoping others would still be able to identify their bodies or their loved ones, because some of the bodies have decomposed. Even worse now, we thought when the operation started, we would prioritize these bodies so that we prevent a situation where they decompose to such an extent that they cannot be recognized anymore. But because of some reasons that we do not know, the police have now shifted and they are saying, let us stop extracting dead bodies for now. Let us take out their live ones. But we are still fine with that because our mission is to make sure that we save as many lives as we can.
We understand that the Minister of Minerals, Gwedi Mantashe, will be coming here. And it's the first time that we are seeing the Minister coming here. As a community member, what do you think about this visit?
Honestly, we as stakeholders, we have no idea of the visit. We were not invited. Perhaps we are not stakeholders as we think or as we thought we were to them. And this is exactly one of the reasons why this is happening in the first place. Because these people are refusing blatantly to acknowledge the community as stakeholders. And they are refusing to acknowledge all of us as civic organizations as relevant stakeholders. And that is why they started with this massacre, because in the very first beginning, there was never any thorough engagement with the relevant stakeholders, which is us and the community. There is no other relevant stakeholders who are supposed to be involved. That's why they started with their Operation Valamgodi, making sure that they closed these holes while they knew that there are people down there. Even when they were made aware that there are human beings down there, they were still not bothered because they were busy with their own so-called stakeholders. They don't regard us as stakeholders. That is why even for the visit that we are told or we hear on Grapevine that is going to take place, we have not received any invitation. So we will be here because what is important to us is that we must save these people that they don't regard as human beings, by the way. So these are human beings to us, so we will be here for the whole day. We are not going to be rushing to them because now they decided that finally they must come. We will be staying here with the community and make sure that we save as many lives as we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was one of the community members, that is Zukisi Jem, speaking to us there about the community saying that they are not happy that the minister is just appearing now, while this thing should have been prevented. But we also know that there is also a post-mortem that was done for one Mozambican who was retrieved here, and the cause of the death was starvation. So this now reveals that the people who are down the mine, some of the bodies that we are seeing is because of starvation that they died. And also we know that this is yet another day for those that are down the mine, that a day for hope, that many of them will be rescued alive. It's back to you in the studio, Osa and Olive.
Thank you very much, Bongani. Really heartbreaking details you're giving us there, but we certainly will want for you to follow up, and we also will be following up with this story as well. Do stay safe. And now let's bring the conversation back to Nigeria, where we share with you what Nigerians are saying. Honorable Mudashiru Obasa was the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly from 2015 to 2025. His reign, however, came to an end yesterday, the 13th of January, when the members of the House of Assembly impeached him and swore in his deputy, Mojisola Lasbat Meranda, who now stands as the first female speaker in Lagos State. Yay, girl power! But let's get back to Obasa for a moment. Obasa's political fall from grace wasn't without reason. Now, the official reason was gross misconduct and abuse of office. However, Obasa had reportedly stepped on toes. There were allegations against him ranging from treating his colleagues like extras in a low-budget political soap opera to allegedly disrespecting the governor's office. Case in point being the 2025 budget presentation, where he not only kept him waiting for hours, but returned without an apology and turned it into an avenue to air his grievances. Some have cited the rejection of some of the governor's appointees as one of his offenses. Others have cited the fact that he dared to dream of running for governor. Now, there was a statement that he made that quickly became controversial and may have maybe been part of his wahala. And he said, and I quote, "Becoming governor is secondary. It's something that I have not given serious consideration. Nevertheless, that does not mean I am too young or lack experience to run, whereas those who have been before me are not better off." The Governor's Advisory Council and even the President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, stepped in to caution Obasa, but it will seem that his fate was probably already sealed. Bear in mind that there were earlier allegations of financial misappropriation leveled against him. The accusations of spending 17 billion on the gate to the assembly complex. Then there was a 200 million naira on the Thanksgiving service for assembly staff, 44 billion naira allocated for vehicles, 15.6 billion naira allocated for office construction, amid claims that these facilities were already functional. Then there was the allegation of awarding contracts to himself, using different funds, and spending 80 million naira as allowance during the training of the wives of 20 lawmakers in Dubai. See, allegation are water, but he has denied all of this, or a number of these allegations, and stated that they were meant to smear his image, especially as we count down to 2027. Nigerians definitely did not miss out on an opportunity to react to this. And here's what they're saying on X. JJ Omajuwa reacted to this, and in his tweet, he said, if an impeachment is all Obasa gets, he should be celebrating. In a sane world, there is more than enough ground for him to be answering questions from a reputable anti-corruption agency. The next tweet is from Maurice Moye, who goes ahead to say, honestly, thought they couldn't touch Obasa. Safe to say that's the end of his gubernatorial ambition. Our fifth online doc says, if Obasa is a good student of history, specifically Lagos history, he should have known there's no other outcome waiting for him. He should have read about Akiwumi Ambode, Femi Pedro, Ikuforiji, Jokotola, Koforowala Bokno. He should have heard or read or heard of them. The lesson is simple. If you will go for the crown, be ruthless and make sure you don't miss. I won't explain anything further. Aratunji Adegoke says, okay, let's move on to Pastor who says, Obasa overstayed his welcome, forgot who he was, dared those who backed him and thought he was invisible. Reminds me of Emefiele 2.0. N6 says, Alausa too sure for ST. By ST, you know who he means. Obasa gone, all man go fall in line. Pablo Martini says, former Speaker of House of Assembly, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, must have offended someone powerful. For him to have been impeached, strong person in power is behind that move. Well, that's politics. Ozi Nwadike says, people saying Obasa should have just piped Lu get it wrong. How much more money do you want to accumulate after 10 years as Speaker of Lagos House of Assembly? Obasa believed he was staging a fight for his destiny. And the final tweet is from the General Snow, who says, how dare you say you are good enough to be Lagos governor? Obasa? LOL. I predicted this. Next is Baja. Then the coast will be clear for Sheyi, my in-law. And then an Igbo woman will be the first lady of Lagos. It's like this, General Snow, you like trouble. Since he's speaking about Igbo, there's an Igbo word or an Igbo phrase, Uka Agbasa, meaning church has closed. So is it safe to say that Uka Agbasa for Obasa? Well, that's all we have today on what Nigerians are saying. And quite frankly, that's all that we have today on the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back again same time tomorrow with a number of the biggest stories. But remember that you can continue the conversations with us on X at News Central TV. And do well to tweet at us individually as well. We'll be back again same time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogie Ogbawa. See you tomorrow.